Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. Some in the media refusing to take the president's case for a border wall as fact.
The big scam of the whole address was that there's a crisis. There's not a crisis.
It seemed like it was a concerted effort to pull one over on the American public, to make it seem like what's happening at the southern border is so much worse than it is.
It's not facts and alternative facts. It is downright lies to try to make a political point.
Statistics do show that asylum claims in the U.S. have increased 1,700% since 2010. So is the liberal media choosing to ignore the numbers? Here to debate that is Katrina Pierson, senior advisor to the Trump 2020 campaign, and Jason Nichols, Democratic political analyst. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks.
Let's get right to this poll here. And this is from Politico Morning Consult. And this shows that 42% of people do believe that this is a crisis. 37% say it's not a crisis, but it is a problem. And then you can see the rest of the numbers there. So what say you, Jason?
Well, I think we have to talk about what a crisis is. I don't think this is a crisis, particularly when you think about in the year 2000, we had 1.6 million people apprehended at the border. In fiscal year 2017, we were down to 300,000 at a 45-year low. This is not a crisis. This is something being manufactured, and we're withholding people's paychecks. We know that, for example, that 250,000 veterans are going to miss a paycheck, and we know that one of the things that leads to suicide among veterans is financial instability. The president is stoking a big problem in this country. He's creating a crisis where there wasn't one.
So I had our brain room fact check some of those numbers from 2000 and 2018, and you are correct, Jason. I will not argue that point. However, what I will say, Katrina, is from 2017 to 2018, the attempted border crossings did go up nearly 100,000. And then if you look at the last few months specifically, they've gone up from July through December about 20,000 since that time. So we are seeing an increase now.
Oh, there's definitely an increase, Jillian. And if you listen to the vice president of the National Border Patrol Council, who gave an interview last night specifically stating that Democrats are ignoring the last 3 months of statistics when it comes to illegal border crossings. But look, the left has to ignore the facts because otherwise it'll defeat the narrative. And in fact, if you go back just a couple of months ago, not even 2 months ago, you will hear Democrats, including Hillary Clinton herself, saying that this is a crisis, a humanitarian crisis. You've had the mayor of Tijuana declare an emergency, saying that there was a humanitarian crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border, pleading for international support and help with this issue. You had Democrats beside themselves because there were these immigrants, these migrants who were trying to get into the United States, who were under conditions that were less than sanitary. So, of course, there's a crisis on the border. And it's really disturbing to see how the media is in lockstep with this narrative of simply ignoring the facts and calling this a manufactured crisis, because I don't believe that the grief and the despair of these families have been manufactured when they had to go through their holidays without their loved ones due to illegal aliens being in this country.
Yeah, Jason, I think a lot of people have a hard time with that term manufactured crisis, because I think a lot of people argue this has always been a crisis that just hasn't been handled completely.
No, I would agree that we need comprehensive immigration reform. We need something that is going to help a lot of people in other parts. I've always argued that the crisis is actually not at our border. It's in the northern triangle of Central America. We need to bring prosperity and opportunity to that part of the world. What's going on the border, however, even the case that Katrina just mentioned, is really what's happening at ports of entry. The majority of people come through ports of entry. The majority of the drugs that come into this country come in through ports of entry. And as a matter of fact,
they don't all, though. So let's be fair about that.
Not all, but again, a border fence is not going to stop that. As we know, the narcos, they build tunnels under fences and they fly drones over fences. So again, a fence is going to make no difference. And as a matter of fact, the Congressional Research Service, a nonpartisan organization, said that the fencing around the San Diego area had no discernible impact on migration or smuggling. So again, this is not going to help the process. What we really need is comprehensive immigration reform and for people to come to the table. But if we can't even come to the table to fund the government and to pay the people like Border Patrol who keep us safe, TSA who keep us safe, and members of our military, when we're talking about Coast Guard, then we really have a problem.
Now,
and this president is not
But the
being
president
fair.
has tried a number of times to come to the table, and the Democrats wouldn't. The president even gave them more than Barack Obama was offering during his tenure in office, and the Democrats would not come to the table. What the Democrats want to do is nothing, and that's not sufficient. And even one life that is taken by an illegal immigrant in this country is one too many. And I think that common sense prevails in all of this, because there were Democrats in blue states who voted for Donald Trump, and illegal immigration was the top priority, because that affects every aspect of our economy, of our healthcare system, of our education system.
Yes.
And the people who are hurt the worst in this country because of it are the communities of color, the low income communities that no one ever even talks about. Nancy Pelosi and the other white liberals who continue to perpetuate this problem
Guys,
don't have to live with what's happening in these communities.
Katrina,
therefore, it's okay for them to say manufactured.
I hate to interrupt you. I apologize. We are out of time, though. And, we'll certainly see what happens. We're going to follow this and have it for you every morning as this plays out. I don't think anyone expects a wall to get rid of this problem 100%. But as you heard Kirsten Nielsen say yesterday, that it definitely does help. So thank you guys for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jillian.
Thank you.
Thanks, Katrina.